Shot the yellow.
Entrepreneurship, it's our game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up.
Welcome back to the Big Potato Podcast. Yep, episode number, help me, Stuart.
Number 10.
Yes, that is
Season
what I wanted
2,
to hear.
Number 10.
Because 10 is such a great number.
You know that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this in season 1, so I won't do it again.
Yeah, I was tempted to go down that road, but I'll avoid it.
All right, but we're glad to have you guys along for the journey, along for the ride. In season's greetings, compliments of the season. You know, we have the Christmas right around the corner, Stuart. Such a lovely time of year.
There's a special episode there. Christmas episode, season finale. You know, we have to bring out a big one for this episode.
Of course, we must wrap it up in a bow and wrap it up nicely. So tonight, before we get into the action tonight, as usual, I have to thank you guys, all the followers of the Big Potato Podcast. I mean, it's been a wonderful year. I'm not going to wait until the end of the episode to say that we are eternally grateful for your support over the last 12 months. What a ride. Imagine that, we started in January and it's already December.
Season 2 finale.
I'm telling you. So you guys, dreams do come true and keep working on yours. This is the platform where we empower entrepreneurs for today's business landscape. It's all about light-hearted discussion, delivering strategic business insights. We've touched on so many industries. We've had so many cases, business cases that we've gone over. We've delivered so many great insights. And we're glad that you guys have allowed us into your space. Continue sharing and following at the Big Potato Podcast. And of course, feel free to send us an email for all your information, your consulting needs for your business. If you want us to have a look at something for you, you can send it to the Big Potato Podcast at gmail.com. Right. So tonight, got to let you guys know who our guest is. Yep, we're bringing on a lady to finish off the season and to end off the year is a must. She is a youth development and communications consultant. She's also a social entrepreneur, an author, digital creator. She has a mission to drive transformative change within organizations and communities, and dare I say, the world. She's a communications consultant at the IDB. Yep. And of course, she manages her own business as well, which she's also going to tell us about. So she is an entrepreneur. She's multilingual. And I had to stick that in there because I just have a thing for people with languages. Multilingual. And she's going to tell us how many languages she can actually speak. And the core areas of focus include public relations, communications, social entrepreneurship, innovation, education, civil society participation, and global governance. Wow, what a guest tonight.
A big one.
I'm telling you, from the sister isle, no less. Let me introduce Mrs. Latoyaa Roberts-Thomas. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Stuart and Kendall. Thank you for having me on the Big Potato Podcast. And wow, so much accolades to my name.
So many. So how is the sister isle tonight?
I think Tobago is quiet, probably a little sad right now, but still quiet and just hoping for the best for the end of season.
Right. Well, I mean, we're here to bring some positive vibes and some good vibes to the audience and the entrepreneurs out there. And I'm sure you're excited to be here.
Definitely I am.
Lovely. So we're going to talk to Latoyaa a lot more in depth tonight. It's all about innovation, social entrepreneurship, and the impact really on developing communities and societies. But in the meantime, let's jump to our first segment. You know it by now. What caught our eye? Quick entrepreneurial insights on articles or stories of significance. So I'll kick it off tonight with an article on Forbes.com as part of the Forbes Business Council. And the title is Social Entrepreneurship, Balancing Profit and Purpose. And it's so interesting because the last episode, we spoke about purpose and passion and how it can unlock profit. And we are just going to excavate some more into that in terms of the social entrepreneurship aspect. And for those of y'all, you always hear us talking here on the Big Potato Podcast about social entrepreneurship because this is a social entrepreneurship venture that we are putting on right now. Social entrepreneurship is a transformative business model combining social and environmental missions, societal missions, with a financial viability as well. After all, it is entrepreneurship. It addresses pressing global challenges like poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, quality in communities as well, by merging non-profit values, things you usually see from the non-profit side of things, with for-profit mechanisms and strategies. Create social impact. Now, some of the companies, I'll just give one big brand based on the article. Tom's, the shoe brand, which I'm sure many people would remember early 2000s or earlier into mid 2000s. They were very nicely designed shoes especially. I know they had other stuff as well. They actually were a social enterprise in that for every pair of Toms that was sold, they gave one away to charity. As simple as that. And I mean, we could get deeper into different businesses that are social enterprises as well, but that's just to give you an example. Now, these businesses, they balance profit and purpose demands. They have to carefully navigate regulatory hurdles. And of course, most importantly, to be viable and sustainable, they must secure funding. They must have some way, some income stream, some revenue stream to keep going. Because without that, how can they deliver what their purpose really is? Now, this is where I'll turn it over to Latoyaa as an expert in this field. Where do we see the intersection or the opportunities for entrepreneurs really based on social entrepreneurship?
Well, Kendall, thanks for bringing the discussion in that direction. I believe social entrepreneurship has been a new model in terms of entrepreneurship that has been really at the forefront over the last few years. And I guess maybe because the traditional business model of always just earning profits, which is good, but not necessarily focusing on your community and your environment or the society in which your business operates, speaks a lot to we as humans and how do we want to develop a place that we are at. Now, I know in the corporate space, a couple of years ago, they used to talk about social enterprises to some extent, or they will talk about corporate social responsibility. But I guess social entrepreneurship takes it a little bit higher. It takes the discussion a little bit higher than just giving back to charity, but it actually speaks to our organization really having within their core values or their business model that they're actually operating for a worthy cause, whatever that may be, and that the benefits redound not only to the business, but to all the beneficiaries and the people within the environment. And I think that is an important business model. And I hope more organizations actually adopt that model and continue to operate that way.
Thanks so much for that, Latoyaa. And I mean, when we think about social entrepreneurship and we think about delivering social impact, really peeling back social problems experienced by large cross-sections of the society. And I could remember very vividly doing a project with my co-host Skweird and another colleague in Oropon, which was a social entrepreneurship project as well. And we chose that project because it had to deal with transportation and the need of the community to access transportation, public transportation, which was not there as a newly developed community. Skweird, what's your take on it tonight?
Well, what I like about the whole concept of social entrepreneurship is it intertwines purpose, which we discussed last episode, with looking for the best problems to solve. There's some research, you could do your research and you'll get a nice list of the best problems to solve, and the majority, more than 90% of them fall within that social entrepreneurship realm. So as Latoyaa said, we're moving away from this for-profit and people training themselves mentally to look for the best problems to solve. How could we impact community? How could we impact environment in a positive way? And at the same time, be sustainable, make money so that it could continue to operate. But that's generally what I took away from it.
And it's important, as Latoyaa also said, not to just attach it on, not to just put it as an appendage to say, all right, well, we're going to just do a social project and call that George.
Checkbox ticked.
Yeah, checkbox tick for the year, the financial year.
Yeah.
And that's that. No, it must be integrated into the business model. It must be a social enterprise business model.
Tied to your core values.
As we discussed in the last episode, as I said, the MVP.
Yep.
The mission, the vision.
And purpose.
And the purpose. Now, the purpose for us being here is to deliver key insights to entrepreneurs, current and future entrepreneurs. So you let us know if we are achieving our social entrepreneurship goal. Skweird, what caught your eye this week?
Well, what caught my eye was really from the Cross Boundary Group. Now, the Cross Boundary Group is an organization out of Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and they publish the Cross Boundary Quarterly. In their April issue, really 25th of April 2024, there's an interesting article named Creative Industry Ecosystems in Colombia: How Collaborative Efforts Foster Economic and Social Prosperity, by Garcia Aguirre, Ohanini, and Cardenas. Forgive me for the pronunciations. Now, it's a great article that explores, as the title says, the creative industry ecosystems in Colombia, how it fuels economic and social prosperity. And they really explore the ecosystems in two places. Again, forgive me. Uzacuri and Bogota.
But we have a linguist here.
Yeah, so under real pressure right now. Alright, so what I really took away from the article was, 1, for those projects to be successful, they required buy-in from the local community, public and private sector for the resources needed. 2, the projects resulted in a tourism industry being created in both places. For instance, Uzacuri went from 400 to 24,000 visitors per month. Then there was also the social side of it. So the Bronx in Bogota, that was like one of the most feared places to go. There were 3 criminal gangs operating there, and that has been transformed to the Bronx Creative District, where they have music festivals and artistic events and so. And the 3 gangs were run out of town, shut down. Both of the areas that they were investigating, Uzacuri and Bogota, they were transformed in terms of the economics, the society, aesthetics. They improved the safety and the quality of life for all the citizens. So it's a great article. I encourage everyone to read it to understand the ecosystem involved in really pushing that creative side.
The orange economy.
That orange economy. But the key takeaway is that there's a pattern that you'll see when you watch what happened. It starts with the individual and or collective initiatives to the local community. Then, after continued efforts, in time it receives positive reception from the larger community. And then there's broad public and private sector interest, and any resources will be made available. So it always starts from the individuals on the ground in the local area.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that, another light bulb went off. We need to stop relying on people to save us. We need to get the ball rolling in plenty of these initiatives. The ball rolling and the discipline of having the time to stick with it and grow your network of people pushing it. And it could transform your life. It could transform your community. So that's really what caught my eye about it. Any thoughts?
Wow, Stuart, I really, really like that nugget. I think that really hit the nail on the head as it relates to social entrepreneurship. I think most people really just trying to pick up the pieces and do things on their own to make their lives better and get joy from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, Latoyaa, you are also an expert in terms of the orange economy. And we'll come to that later on in the episode in more detail. But part of this article really had a key intersection in terms of moving away from tangible economy to more of an intangible economy.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of now people making more money off of IP and these sort of things. So you write your book, you have IP in that, you write your songs, any of your literary works basically, and your creative works. How do you see that impacting us?
Well, I could use my personal life as a use case. For me, yes, I am a creative, not only in terms of an author, but I'm also in terms of mass media and communication, in terms of a lot of the visual graphic work and artwork that I do. And funny enough, I think sometimes many people forget how creative they are. And a lot of people don't have the foresight to actually claim the space of being a creative. But you could be into science, but still have creative elements in it that make you a creative. Likewise, within an engineer, you could also have those creative ideas and products that go into it. So I really want to encourage persons that let's not look at orange economy operating in a vacuum by itself, but it really intersects with many different aspects of life and the things that we do. So a lot of the intangible products and the ideas that we generate as human beings, yes, I guess for trade purposes, we will try to categorize it to make sense of it, but there's so much connection and intersectionality going on with many of the products and the work that we do as human beings, to whether it's generate a profit, whether it's to explain our existence or a cause that we're interested in, or just help us make better understanding of the world that we live in. I just want to share that also.
Well, actually, every week we post an entrepreneurship quote, something to inspire.
Mm-hmm.
And just yesterday we posted one from Albert Einstein, which was, logic will take you from point A to point B, but imagination will take you everywhere. So that point about creativity, I agree with it 100%.
And that's coming from a creative as well. I'm here with some very creative minds and creative people, my friends. Very, very creative. So they understand it very well as authors. And as Latoyaa said, in terms of mass communication, Stuart from a music aspect as well. We just love it around here on the Big Potato Podcast with all the experts. That's how we wrap up our first segment, What Caught Our Eye, brought to you by IBOMAQ. We'll be right back. Whether you're seeking guidance or solutions for your business, we're here to help. Contact us via IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. That's IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. And let's discuss how we can collaborate for your success. And we're back on the Big Potato podcast, episode number 10. Yep. Season 2 and season finale for 2024. Yep. It's been a ride. It's been a journey. It's been great for 12 months. I hope you've been enjoying it. We're joined tonight by Latoyaa Roberts-Thomas. Yep. She's delivering insights tonight on many different topics, but we're going to zone in right now just to get a better idea of who Latoyaa is. Of course, we must start there so that the audience can feed off of that going forward. So Latoyaa, we gave your bio, few insights in terms of you, which I'm sure is just a small portion. But tell us a little bit more specifically about your choice to be a social entrepreneur and entrepreneurship on the whole. Did it start there for you, or you started in corporate life and transitioned?
Well, I will say my entrepreneurship journey was definitely not at first about business per se. A lot of my work and background actually started in youth movement. So I was a part of many different youth civil society organizations, not only based in Trinidad and Tobago, but eventually it spread globally. And I continued to do projects, deliver services, try to understand what young people want, what the future generation might see life to be. And in the process of doing that, I realized that, one, youth work is not all talk, but then when you go to all these discussion forums and when you're in all these meetings and all the paperwork is done, what is the tangible products or services or activities that really impact young persons' lives? So because of that point of moving from policy discussions and a lot of boring meetings to actually looking for physical projects and activities that are really going to empower young persons to be economically sustainable, to find their talent or skill, it made me realize how important social entrepreneurship was and creating different business models within the work that I do for young people could really help sustain the cause and help me understand more as I grew. Because yes, I was in youth movement from since about the age 10, 12, but eventually I got to like 18, 19, finish university, and I'm like, I can't be attending meetings for free all the time. I can't just be running up and down saying it's just youth movement, but really showing what is the business model and the economic gains that young people could get while engaging in discussions and projects and activities that will be better for their lives. So that's where my journey really started.
Fantastic. And I mean, walk us forward in that journey a little bit. So what would have been probably the transition point or the leap of faith point where you realize, all right, well, what was the next move really when you realize I should not probably be doing all of this for free? What was the next move? How did you start to probably create that business model that you spoke of?
That's a great question. So for me, because I was in youth movement, doing a lot of public speaking, writing a lot of outcome statements based on different meetings with different government people and stakeholders, I realized that I was developing a skill as it relates to communication and advocacy. So as a result of that, I decided to study communication studies, but I always had a passion with international relations also, because a lot of my youth movement work started to gravitate outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So I was traveling for conferences, I was attending policy dialogues, and I realized that it's one thing to advocate for things at home, but when you don't understand how the global space works, you need to understand a little bit about what that developmental aspect means when you're operating at a global level. So that I was able to blend my passion for communications with my interest in youth development, and then understanding how to operate not only within the space of Trinidad and Tobago, but a more strategic and diplomatic and global level to have larger project scale to impact a wider community, specifically targeting youths in the global south. So I think that was the tipping point for me, understanding how to scale the project to benefit youths within the global south region.
Okay, well, let me ask something. Earlier you mentioned that you're trying to discover what youths want. You ever got any sort of answer to that question? What do you really want out there?
Big business question, right there.
Really big business question. I think at a point in time, a lot of the young people that I would have dealt with, whether through the youth council movement or through grassroots movement, youths were exploring non-traditional forms of engagement. So before dealing with people registered in a formal youth group and sitting down in bureaucratic meetings, they didn't want that. They wanted more artistic expression. They wanted to do the youth concerts and explain youth development through music, or they were into fashion, or even if young people are into business, a lot of the young people business models is not 8 to 4. It's not the strict way of maybe the way our elder parents used to do business models. So at a point in time, when I started a lot of youth movement work, for example, the idea of social media influencers was now new on the table. So there was criticism whether it's just a popularity thing or if there's really sustainable income with that and what are the benefits. Long time they just probably used to just call it the word role model, full stop. So you get a role model and the role model will demonstrate to the young people what they need to do. Most role models, I guess, never used to look at it as a brand, an image, a persona that they want to portray for a certain cause. But then dialogues like that started to happen. Then, for example, a lot of sustainability conversations are now in. So a lot of green businesses started to come in because people care about the environment and they care about nature. So there were a lot of different discussions and ideas that keep going, I guess, with every generation that happens. Because even now I'm a bit more removed from the youth discourse and there are new trends and patterns now. But I think it's always about understanding what each generation wants and seeing what are sustainable projects or sustainable ideas that could translate for them and how they can apply that in their daily lives.
Great. And if you look across the regions, Scott, you were doing this internationally, would you say that they're more alike in their wants or they more differ based on the region that they live in?
Definitely at the end of the day, more alike. I think human beings have more things in common than differently. Mm-hmm. I think the differences might just go with different cultural nuances, the way to get it done. But pop culture is always going to be a big thing for young people. The ability to express themselves through fashion and the way they want to is always going to be common threads. The idea of free speech and what that means by giving a young person a voice. So all of those are very common topics that matter across whether you're a young person within the Caribbean or a young person in Europe or a young person in Asia, because I lived and worked in Asia for a while. Those are common threads. So as human beings, more similarities than differences, actually.
Great.
Fantastic. And already we could tell, based on your experiences, the type of discussion that we could have tonight, which leads me to the next question. For young people, you mentioned, I think you said in your time of more being in tune with the youth movement and so on, now you're a little bit more removed. But I would like to even push it a little further to say that it probably has been exacerbated a little bit in terms of them wanting to be non-traditional in their engagements, but also in terms of their careers. So, I mean, even you have gotten into communications, and I would like to think of you as a young person as well. And now we see more young people going down the road of entrepreneurship. And in your experience, have you seen really big projects happening, big or small, I should say, with young people focusing more so on social entrepreneurship? Have they gravitated towards that in the same magnitude?
Thanks for that question. And I think, Kendall, yes, more young persons are understanding that having their own business and being their own boss in some sort of social entrepreneurship route is the way to go. Whether we like it or not, the traditional 8-to-4 job or being hired by the government per se, it's not a sustainable business model. Many countries have expressed how significant their economies have to turn to be stable. And here, even in Trinidad and Tobago, we know that the government cannot employ all of us. We know that young people need to have the skills and the tools and the resources to come up with business ideas and projects that will help them grow. Yes, there's a level of social programs that will exist. There's always going to be the few people in society, and I will say a small amount of people in society who really cannot probably start a business on their own or really cannot be sustainable in terms of operating and living and employing themselves. But I do think majority of the population does have the potential, does have the ability. And I specifically want to speak in the Trinidad and Tobago context. Whether we like it or not, we are one of the higher educated populations in the Caribbean because our government made a strategic decision at a point in time to gate over a period in time that a lot of the population is educated on different levels of tertiary, whether it was a full degree, a master's program, some skills training, and having all of those programming happen in our country isn't then for you to go and sit down in a public service system that is like 50 years behind anyway, and it has nothing to do with what you learned in university. So I don't think young people at this juncture in their life is seeing it very appealing to work for the government per se. And I don't think with this new generation of young people being very creative and diverse, wants to sit down behind anybody's table and have a boss. I think many young people really want to go out there on their own, explore, have their small businesses. And some are more successful than others and are able to scale it faster than others and really excel in whatever business that they want to do.
Great stuff. But my question is, what does entrepreneurship and innovation really look like specifically in Tobago? Because in Trinidad, I find it real hard with our market size. And I contemplate the size of the population in Tobago and thus the size of the potential market size. And this is just talking about locally. Obviously, you will have your international strategies and so. But what does innovation and entrepreneurship look like in Tobago?
Thank you so much for that question. I think you raise an excellent point about Tobago having a small population size. And I do think if you look at a traditional business model, that will definitely be a challenge because you only have about 65,000 people. If you're going to have a brick and mortar building and you're going to operate with a very easy, simple, traditional business store, whether it's a grocery or you just want to have a physical store that people could come and touch and feel. But I do believe the world has gone so much past that. Mm-hmm. And COVID has shown us how we could be flexible and innovative and still access services and resources without necessarily always being in a physical place. So yes, I do agree it's going to be hard if somebody wants to start a business and they're only thinking about the 60,000 people or so physically on the island being their market. But I do think a lot of young people didn't grow up with that mindset. And many times people wouldn't want to have the hustle and the capital to really put out a physical business these days. There are so many innovative business structures that operate now without physical buildings. There are so many people that are doing drop shipping models. They're doing online business. They're just skills and services. So limiting yourself to just knowing that Tobago market is small, which is a reality. It's a fact, it's small. If you really want to grow in your business and you really want to scale, you will definitely have to look at outside of TNT. And I can give you an example of my lifestyle. My business model is that a lot of my clients are actually not based in Trinidad and Tobago. I have deliberately created a business structure and a model where I sell my services across the world. And I bridge it as I am offering services, because I do professional services, to persons who would like to connect or link with the global south. Mm-hmm. And that has been a niche and a marketing tool that has worked for me in terms of the work that I do for my business. Likewise, other people will have different business models, or they might creatively put it in language a certain way. But I do think a lot of young people now are trying to operate outside of their immediate space, especially not in Tobago. We don't have enough capital nor people to really sustain growth.
Agreed.
And it's important because, a couple episodes ago with Tamika, we also spoke about expansion and really going global or entering markets, of course, that your product or service fit well, and creating new niches in those territories as well. But you mentioned something, a couple of times there where, we have all these skills because we've been developed so much, as a people. And this is an entrepreneurial podcast. So a lot of our audience, they have skills too. And as we know in the definition of entrepreneurship, a lot of the times it's because you have skills or experience in a particular area. You may choose to focus on that area. Of course, with market viability, etc., etc., etc. How do we, or for the purpose of the audience that is, and based on your experience of doing it yourself with communications, with writing and design skills and so on, how does one really take those skills, those experiences they may get from a job, those learnings they may get from doing some certification in an educational institution, how do you take those and transition them really into practical, profitable business ventures?
Excellent question. My advice is, one, you need to be aware of what is your skill. Now, there are different business models and different niche, depends on your profession, that may have different skills tables or have different skills assessment. So I do agree if somebody wants to specialize or become professional within that skill, one, they need to have that certification or do that skills assessment, that needs assessment for the skill or the category that it fits in. Once the person is clear about that, then they have a clear idea of what they could offer to different types of consumers. They're clear what is the service or what is the product that they can make to enter into the market. Then you need to decide what best works for you. If you want to enter a market where you're going to be producing plenty products and you need a skilled labor force because it's not something that you can do on your own and you need to build a team and your business model need to hire 5 to 10 employees or even up to 20 to become profitable and sustainable, you need to map that out. If you're a professional service provider like me, doing more consultancies and more creative ideas, then a lot of my projects are actually one-on-one, or it may be a smaller team of up to 2 or 3 persons, depends on the nature of the job. So you kind of need to know what is your skill, what is the demands in the market, and where you're going to sell it. And then my last advice is you need to understand what is your ultimate business goal. I'm not saying that everybody will automatically score big, but if you have your goals, you have your targets, you have your milestones that you want to achieve, and you keep working on it, if you're within the industry 3 years, you want to go to this stage by 5 years, you expect to be at this place by 10 years, really try to map that goal. And as you grow every year, consider acquiring new skills, because what might have been an important skill 5 years ago might not necessarily be the skill now, or you need improvements with it. So having continuous learning is what is going to help you be agile, is what's going to help you be innovative. I'm always doing some course. I'm always attending a webinar, some kind of structured learning, some kind of improvement. Life is about learning. So you never stop learning. And I think as business people, as entrepreneurs, you need to be able to understand what's in your market, be able to retrain and retool and keep up with the innovations and the technologies, or you will get left behind.
Some fantastic practical advice.
Well, let me tell you, Kendall, I told you it's a big one we brought on.
Big one.
We were getting bogged down in things. We didn't even continue the journey. We didn't even find out how Latoyaa, moved on to writing books and having a publishing company and then consulting for the IDB. We're getting bogged down. Too much knowledge.
Things just flying like meteors right now.
So I would like to get more of that journey. All right, so we went from the youth work and, you're following your passion and you're bringing on clients to the global south. So how does that now move into having a publishing company and writing books? And then if you could tell us about the communications consultancy as well.
Good question, Stuart. So my journey went through many phases, and that is something that happens in this generation. Maybe our parents and long time probably was in a job for like 20 years or so, but the truth be told is persons in this era will probably change jobs every 3 to 5 years, and it's very normal. Long ago, when you look at somebody's CV and you find they moved to too many places, you'll think something is wrong with that and they can't keep doing a job. But I don't think that is really how it operates now. So when I finished university, I actually had the experience to actually move to Asia. I moved to Japan and I taught English for 2 years there because my degree at UE was communication studies with linguistics. So my language passion, because I was very talkative. I was always into language. So my language passion went there. And that was great. That really gave me a lot of exposure into a flip side, a whole different part of the world, seeing things totally different from how we see it in the Western way. I understood a lot about the Asian progress model and what works best for them and their culture. And Japan is a good place to be when you really want to understand technology and progress. So that served its purpose. And then returning to Trinidad and Tobago, I decided to go back into the teaching system in Trinidad and Tobago. I do think that was a leap of faith because the system here is very different, very rigorous. I don't think it's actually that productive for us as a people. So I really struggled to understand where we were going with it. So eventually I did have enough of the teaching structures and the teaching positions here. So then I went back into my youth development and my communication consultancy. So I did like 5 years just working with different international organizations, delivering different projects all over the world. And then I finally decided that home is where the heart is. Home is still important. And we really want Trinidad to be able to grow because we have a lot going on in the country. Sometimes I think our efforts are just a little misplaced, but we still have a lot of tools and resources and still capital within the country compared to other islands in the region. So Trinidad and Tobago is not that bad compared to other places. So I decided to return here. And upon returning here, I was still working in the international development space, but I didn't want to be limited to the Caribbean only. So that is when I decided, okay, being at the IDB gives me that broad perspective of Latin America and the Caribbean, because that is how the IDB operates. And it offers an opportunity to work in the development space in communications, but it's a lot of cross-cutting teams. It's communication across blue economy, communication across trade, communication across transport, communication across SMEs and business development, communication across cybersecurity and technology. So it's very much cross-cutting. Mm-hmm. And along with that, because I still always had a passion in linguistics, in literature, and language, I always have a lot of thoughts in my head. And I think I was doing a lot of public speaking for a very long time. And it was time to start to put those thoughts into formalized paper and really publish it into books. And that is where my book publishing company came in as a result. So it's funny in life, everything is intertwined, but sometimes we don't see the link until later on in life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like to share up to there so far.
Yes. That's a fantastic journey, and thanks for sharing. And it really gives way for us to take a break right now and come back to talk about some more of that journey, but also some insights for the entrepreneurs locked on right now as to how they can create profitable business opportunities as well. Stick around. From Ibadan to Helyard, from slavery to independence, learn how Helyard, the Trinidad All-Stars, created the Trini identity and how that was leveraged for our independence. Get your copy on Amazon now. And we're back on the Big Potato Podcast. Your Shodi Kendall, my co-host Stuart, here as usual, taking you guys through. And we're joined by Latoyaa Roberts-Thomas, such a versatile, diverse, and awesome person, doing so many great things, hailing from the sister isle Tobago, but definitely touching the global stage. Latoyaa, let's talk a little bit about innovation. Skweird brought it up a little bit earlier. But what are your thoughts? How do you see our country really developing? We talked about the young people and the skills and the creativity and the non-traditional work and engagements that they like. Talked about the development and the business models that they create, whether it's just straight entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. But at the heart of all entrepreneurship, there must be innovation. And how do you see that impacting our communities and the development of our country going forward?
Well, innovation, this nice, sexy buzzword that everybody uses.
The sexy buzzword.
I want to be a little critical here with my understanding of innovation. The way I see it, human beings have always been innovating. Mm-hmm. We moved from Ice Age to whether the age of telecommunications back then to the 20th century to now in the 21st century. So I don't want persons to feel as if innovation is something so new and far from us. For me, I think innovation is innate. It's in human natural civilization for progress. So I want to start the discussion with us understanding that. Secondly, we need to understand that innovation has many stages. I think a lot of people are a bit reluctant or coward about innovation because they think innovation means that it's always about a new product. But innovation can be anything along a value chain that improves or makes it better. So if you have a company, you may not be able to transform everything within your company, but you can innovate one part of the process that can make a lot of things more seamless and easy and therefore improve your workflow. So there are many little things that people can do in their daily lives, in their businesses, in their companies, and ideas that are innovative or transformative. And for me, that is what innovation is. Those little building blocks of change that you are going to implement at periodic stages until you end up with this final wow of however it affects your workflow and the things that you do. And young people innovate every day. Every day. I have 2 teenagers and a lot of things that I see they do, they're very creative. So it's there within us. I think the challenge is sometimes we don't know how to monetize it, or we don't even realize that we are innovating. And those innovations could do so much more for us if we structure it and apply it well.
Well said. We have incremental innovations. We have small t, we have big T. But you said something very interesting there, and I really sure that Skweird is stoked about it, that innovation has always existed and that it is innate. Skweird?
As simple as the fire, right? You know, we have the wheel, we have all these things. People think that because people existed hundreds or thousands of years ago that they were stupid for some reason. And then also even the industrial revolutions you went through, from steam to electricity to the computer to the internet, now to this whole where we are right now. Mm-hmm. The 5th industrial revolution is continuous improvement.
Of course it is, and it's the curiosity of the human mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned something just now there about monetization. So now that leads me down the orange economy side of the discussion. In terms of what are some of the SWOT analysis type of format, the opportunities and threats that exist for people who want to enter that orange economy and now monetizing a product from Trinidad and Tobago. For instance, if you're selling your stuff abroad, using certain digital platforms could be a challenge. That monetization you mentioned, that's what triggered this question. What are some of the opportunities, some of the threats of the orange economy, specifically to our local? And, would you encourage people to enter that industry?
Well, yes, I think with any business, you have to do your SWOT. And as a creative operating in the orange economy, I think the strengths are, one, me as a person who is willing to learn, willing to be curious, willing to express myself. I think the human being have so many infinite ideas and expressions that could come out of us. And that is a strength. You draw upon your Caribbean culture, you draw upon your educational background, you draw upon the influences of the world, and you create and you make something into your own. And there will be others within the space like you who will consume and appreciate whatever you have to produce. Mm-hmm. So definitely as a creative, there is a strength for us within the Caribbean here, within Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's on music, whether it's on dance, whether it's on speech. Yeah, and I have to say, like, we don't even understand the beauty of a speech. The reason why I went to Japan was I was teaching English in the Japanese market. So just by me being an English speaker, that was my skill and my tool just to explain the language to them so that they could interact with a native. And there are many other countries that would want English speakers because English, whether you like it or not, is the lingua franca. And my Caribbean accent might be different from the European one, from the American one. So, you have that skill there. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of strength within the creative industries, and we just have to be able to unearth it and deliver it. Weaknesses, yes, there will always be weaknesses, whether it is we don't have enough capital to scale the projects and the ideas further. We do not understand how to do mass production of cultural industries, especially if it's something very authentic. We may not want to necessarily go too big, too fast and get it into the mass. Opportunities, I will say globalization. Mm-hmm. You can do your recording on your cell phone now and send it all over the world. So much IT and technology and new tools, AI, and using it positively, of course, to help processing things very easily for us here in the creative industry. And I guess I think threats is, you just really never know. Mm-hmm. You never know when it's going to be the next thing and when your idea might not be that useful anymore, when trends and patterns and people's tastes may change, and it's going to happen. But I think that is where you could always redefine yourself, where you could always look for a different niche market, where you could always do things slightly different to keep people wanting more of you, I would say, as a creative.
Fully agreed. Fully agreed. And just to take it locally, I have my book in some stores in Trinidad, and one of the threats that, you have to do research, you have to go through the experience and understand that relationship, that author-bookseller relationship in Trinidad. Not every big bookstore is the bookstore for your product to be available in. One of my threats, again, on the local side of things is that the bookstores, they don't like to buy any local books outright. Everything is on consignment. But all the international books, obviously, is purchased in advance. Or credit, 15 days credit, 30 days credit. However they have it set up. But those definitely going to be paid for, sold or not. And there's no motivation for the bookstores to sell your book because it's on consignment. In fact, I know the content of my book. I introduced my book to the store. About a week later, passing through, asked one of the clerks if there's any books that cover the topics that my book cover. And the answer is, no, we don't sell anything like that here. So that is one of the threats as a local orange economy operator. That willingness for the ecosystem, as you were discussing before, to actually buy in and let it help grow the ecosystem.
Thanks, Stuart, for raising that point. Because I deal with a lot of authors, my advice is this. Unfortunately, within the creative system, within the orange economy, there is a hierarchy. So you have to find your niche market. Mm-hmm. If you want your books to get first place into the bookstores, you probably have to go through a traditional publisher because they already have set agreements, and it's probably cheaper for them just to go to one person that is bringing 500 books from different authors to their table rather than having to deal with an individual author 500 times. Unfortunately, that's just how the market is. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you think the bookstore model not working for you, then be a little rigid. Do your grassroots, do your guerrilla marketing. You speak to your books, you speak to your idea, you speak to your networks. And that's how it works. There are a lot of authors who went through self-publishing or indie publishing before they eventually sign a big book deal.
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling is like that. She wrote for herself before. So you have to decide which side of the market, which side of the fence you want to be. But I do think with every economy, there is going to be a hierarchy and a structure. And you have to decide which side of the table you want to be. It happens the same way how independent films operate versus the ones that come through the traditional Hollywood market. It's the same sort of system with books. It's either you go with a traditional publisher that have agreements to have placements, or you go through each market yourself. You have to make a choice.
Yeah, well, as I said from the onset, you need to know the difference between what's a big popular bookstore and what is the bookstore for your product. Because some bookstores already go out there and I speaking specifically from the author perspective. I know the orange economy is multiple different things going on, but specifically from the author perspective, you need to really understand which bookstore is the bookstore for you. Which one going to actually be passionate about selling your books, which one going to push it and encourage in-store promotions and those sort of things.
And it's a good thought that those discussions have to continue, because those discussions help to break barriers and change the system a little bit. I can't guarantee a full 360, but it's constant conversations like these that helps some bookstores say, well, okay, let's have a local author's bookshelf. Or they're going to set quotas. It would not be as high as the traditional publishers, but there are some bookstores that are now deliberately making an effort to reach out to local authors and be a little bit more involved. But yeah, it's a struggle in the market.
And have a local bookshelf in a visible, a prominent space in the store as well.
I agree.
Not hidden away in a dark corner.
And it's important, that discussion, I'm telling you, because it not only spans in the orange economy, but the insights coming out of that discussion really speak to understanding your market, obviously understanding your niches, having your target audience, knowing exactly about your placement, covers a lot of different topics. Let's do your market research, quite important. So I want to thank you, Stuart, for bringing that up, and Latoyaa as well for your responses on that. For the entrepreneurs out there, Latoyaa, somebody is on the fence right now as we get ready to wind down in a few. Somebody's on the fence right now thinking about, how should I navigate my next few moves from where I am right now, the experience, the skills, and the knowledge I have, and the idea that is starting to form in my mind, or ideas. What's the next step for them? How should they approach it?
Wow. I don't think there's one straight journey to entrepreneurship. There's no one best answer. My advice will really be to that person who has that business idea, whether it's 1 or 10, test them. Talk to your networks, talk to people around you, see if it's something feasible that people gravitate to. And once you have the support, give it a go. There are many great entrepreneurs and business people who actually have many failed businesses before they succeed. And I want to really raise this point. Sometimes us within the Caribbean or young people think that if you have 1 or 2 failed business, that means you're not good at business. But do you know many billionaires, they invest in so much companies and so much companies crash or they sell it out and they go again, and it's quite normal. I really want to encourage persons to understand the journey to entrepreneurship is not about getting this one big business idea and then it booms and scales and successful. Some people have that success story, but actually majority don't. They have to try 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 business ideas before they find the one that scores. And I believe testing these ideas is also going to help you develop that risk appetite for the market. Because entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. I'm not going to make it sound all pretty, because it's not. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours. It really takes a lot out of you. So take that opportunity to test. And if you fail, no problem. You close that business and you re-register a new idea once you do have the financing and the support, and you go again. You stick to it, and eventually you will find that business stream, that social entrepreneurship opportunity that brings life and purpose and value. And you also said MVP really gives you that reason why you're existing and what you're doing in society.
Well, I really have many more questions. In fact, I think I'll close off with this. It's Christmas, is the season finale. So I wanted to find out, what was your most rewarding moment for the year? All of these different projects you're working on, what made you feel most merry for 2024?
Wow. I had plenty of rewarding moments, but I will say one was earlier this year in February, actually did a great consultancy where I went back to Japan for a week just to eat Japanese food and talk about the culture and the food around it. And I think sometimes very simple projects like that bring the most joy to my life. So that was a really rewarding project that I delivered early this year.
Nice.
When you could go to Japan just to eat food.
Just for food.
Well, a little bit more than that, but it was a food culinary tour to really promote certain food tasting products and lifestyles. That was great.
I was being a little bit facetious, don't worry about that. But I mean, even from that, it shows, as you said earlier, that you could really operate in such non-traditional ways in this here time, as we like to say, in this economy, in this time where people say things are so hard and things are so difficult. They are. We are not downplaying that. But usually you find that starts to build your resilience more as an entrepreneur.
And it may be not as hard somewhere else.
May not be hard somewhere else. So perhaps the book, as Stuart mentioned as an example, that may be going through certain challenges here. There may be an opportunity for it somewhere else in the world. Think about your product or service. Think about your skill. Think about your passion. Think about what you really like doing. Are you being rewarded for it right now? Maybe you don't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, but there is a roadmap that you can take. Starting with what I just mentioned, taking it to understand, are there other people that need this? People have a problem that I can solve? The size of that market. How many people like that are out there? Will they be willing to pay me to solve that problem for them?
That pain.
Yeah, the customer pain. Are they willing to help me build my business by me helping them solve their problem? How can I scale it? As Latoyaa said, how can I take it globally? And that brings me to my final question for you tonight, Latoyaa. As you build all these pieces, these Lego blocks, as an entrepreneur, let's talk organizational strengthening. How does the entrepreneur go about doing that?
Well, that's a good question to ask because a lot of people do not necessarily think about business sustainability and continuity. And I guess because you're so much in the grind, just trying to get the business started, you're not thinking, can the business operate without you? Or what should the business look like 10 years later? And simple tools to help businesses structure includes getting a business plan. One, that helps you start the business fine. But then also getting strategic plans can help you to understand how your business is going to grow and how strategic it's going to be over a period in time with your milestones, etc. And then also having business continuity plan. If you remove yourself from the business as the principal operating day to day, what would that look like? How the business is going to operate if you're not going to be there to open the door every day for your employee to come in. If you are not there to go to the bank to get the cash flow that you need for your business, what happens? Does it stall? If you get ill for a week, if you would like to go on vacation, Is it that your business automatically shuts down? Are you going to operate remotely with your customers and clients? How are you going to structure it? And it depends on the nature of your business and the load and the flow of your business. You can decide how robust you want your business structure to be, because having stronger organizational roots in your business may incur additional costs, etc. So have your plan. You really need to think about that business plan and that business structure and deciding what model is best for you at the time. Some people start off small, 2-3 people, and as the business scales, they will decide how they want to restructure. And there's no problem. You could start your business as a sole trader, as an entrepreneur, and then you could scale it later on into a limited liability company when you have more legs to stand on, you want to employ more people, and you want to get bigger with your services or products. But definitely you have to plan your business.
What I like about that is that process of planning for your succession will allow you to identify the key people in the company as well. Sometimes you might be the owner, but you're not really the key person that if you pass, the company really could still continue because that key person still operated. So that exercise you just described will allow you to identify who the key people are and be able to know, understand how to plan for that succession so that if something happens to them, you have a plan to move forward.
Well said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stuart, for that. On that note, Latoyaa, any final words for our audience tonight?
Definitely. For the Big Potato audience, thank you so much for having me here in this discussion. I think we shared so many golden nuggets tonight.
Mm-hmm.
My wish for 2025, as this is the last episode in this season, as we close off 2024, is start a new project, start a new idea. You could never really run out of business ideas. However little it may seem, however silly it may seem, give it a go and see what it yields to you. I think in Tobago and in Trinidad and Tobago, we are creative. We have a lot of fun in life. Let's take some of those fun things in life and also transform it into sustainable business models that could continue to help us live and grow as people and, live comfortably here.
Awesome words to close off tonight from Latoyaa Roberts-Thomas.
Well, as Krisha said last episode, you have to consider how you're growing, how you're taking on this expansion, whether it's wide or it is deep. So listen to the last episode, understand what I'm talking about. Whether you want to take on new projects, you could say horizontally, or you want to go vertically. Do you want to go deeper within your expertise and so yes, try some new projects, but be strategic with that choice.
Stuart, I would ask you, 2024 Big Potato Podcast season finale for the year. 12 months of the Big Potato Podcast. Tell us, how has it been?
It's been a learning experience. Both of us, we never did podcasting before. So basically what we are now being told by Latoyaa to do for 2025, we did this for 2024. We took on a new venture. We took on a new adventure. And we've been going through the experience and I'm enjoying it. It's definitely helped me with some soft skills and just the whole, producing an episode or show. It's been good. It's been good.
One of the main things from this ride so far is meeting awesome people like Latoyaa and all of our other guests. How many of them now? 22?
Latoyaa is the 22nd expert we've spoken with.
Yep, that's right. And I hope you guys out there have also enjoyed it. All our content that we have produced for you all. Continue to give us your feedback at the Big Potato Podcast on all social media platforms. You can send us an email as well for anything that you'd like to see in the next season. Any questions you would like us to address, any topics, any areas, any particular guests you would like us to have on. And most importantly, remember, we are also consultants as well. So for your major business concerns, issues, problems, reach out to us. Let's have a discussion. On that note, Merry Christmas and a happy, prosperous, and bright 2025 to our Big Potato Podcast crew. We wish you guys all the best.
I want to extend the same greetings. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being part of the journey. We wanted to ride with us in 2025. Have a Merry Christmas. And all the blessings. May all the dreams come true.
We hope so. Eat something nice. Drink something nice. Be safe. Remember the reason for the season. And of course, as Latoya said, try a new project for the new year. Be great. Thank you so much, Latoya Roberts-Thomas.
No problem. It's fun being here.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendall and Stewart. Your time to grow, listen up. Take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn.
No problem. It's fun being here.